Good morning, students. You are welcome in the 14th chapter of your social science course. And the title of the chapter is The World from 1914 to 1945. In this chapter, we will learn about the world between the two world wars. See, the first half of the 20th century changed the course of world history. Two world wars were fought that caused huge devastation and loss of human life and properties. Entire cities had to be rebuilt and world prayed for peace. The First World War, also called the Great War, lasted from 28th July 1914 to 11 November 1918. Many countries were involved in it. It was fought between the two blocs, the Allied powers and the Central powers. Allied powers consists the countries like Britain, France, Russia, Italy, USA, and Japan, and Central powers consists of countries like Germany, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria, etc. In the 2 decades preceding the First World War, countries were competing against each other to develop and acquire weapons. Countries were also forming political and military alliances to protect themselves. The atmosphere in Europe was very tense that time, and on 28 June 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, was assassinated by a Serbian. Soon, Austria declared war on Serbia. As most countries had already formed alliances, they joined in to protect their allies. Now, the battles were fought in different countries in Europe, and fighting took place along the Western Front, that is France, Belgium side, and along the Eastern Front, that is Russia side. The war was mostly fought from trenches. Soldiers dug open tunnels in the ground, they hid in them and fired from them. Machine guns and heavy artillery were used extensively. Now, tanks and poison gas were used for the first time. German submarines called U-boats sank many ships of the Allied powers. And India supported Britain in the hope that Britain would grant her self-government after the war. Indian soldiers fought in Europe, in Africa, and in West Asia. Now, the war ended in November 1918. The Allied powers emerged victorious, and both sides signed an armistice. The after the war, a peace conference was held in Paris. The Treaty of Versailles was signed between the German and the Allied powers. Germany was blamed for the war and severely punished. The terms of the treaty were Germany would have to pay a heavy fine, it could not increase its military forces, and some of its territories were to be occupied by the Allied powers. The First World War shook the world. To prevent such a war in future, the League of Nations was formed. Its objective was to solve disputes between the countries and maintain world peace. The year after the war were hard for the people of Europe. Then came the Great Depression in 1929. Trade suffered, factories and banks closed down, and millions of people lost their jobs. The effects were particularly severe in Europe and America. Their economy was totally crushed. The formation of the League of Nations did not bring peace to Europe. The period saw the rise of two dictators, Benito Mussolini in Italy and Adolf Hitler in Germany. Hitler was the most ambitious of the two. He became the chancellor in 1933. His ambition to turn Germany into a superpower plunged the world into another world war. Now, Second World War. The Second World War was many times more destructive than the first. It started on 1st September 1939 and lasted 6 years. Like the First World War, this was also fought between two blocs, the Allied powers and the Axis powers. Almost 70 million people lost their lives. Allied powers consists of countries like Britain, France, Soviet Union, USA, etc. And Axis powers consists of countries like Germany, Italy, Japan, etc. You have read that Germany was uh, made to pay a heavy price for its role in the First World War. This almost ruined the German economy. The Germans were angry. They began to support Adolf Hitler, the leader of the Nazi Party. Hitler promised to restore the glory of Germany. He began to strengthen the military to expand the German Empire. This rising military might of Germany alarmed the other European powers. Now, Britain and France decided to take a combined stand against Hitler. When Hitler attacked Poland with a desire to annex it, Britain and France declared war on Germany. Soon, other countries in Europe joined either of the two warring parties. Thus began the Second World War. The war was fought on land, air, and water, and poison gas was used on soldiers and civilians alike. There were air raids and bombs were dropped on cities. Many cities were razed to the ground. Warships and submarines were used by both sides to gain advantage at sea. Hitler held the Jews responsible for Germany's misfortunes. He had them sent to labor or concentration camps. The conditions in these camps were inhuman. The Jews were tortured to it is estimated that more than 6 million Jews died in these camps. This event is known as the Holocaust. The war also spread to the specific region. Uh, Japan won major victories here. On 7th December 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, America's naval base in Hawaii. This led USA to join the war on the side of the Allied powers. Germany had the upper hand in the war till mid 1942. But after this, the Allied powers recovered and dealt a crushing defeat to Germany and Japan. By the beginning of 1945, Hitler knew that he could not win. So he committed suicide in April month. On 7th May 1945, Germany surrendered. Japan, however, continued to fight in the Pacific region. In August 1945, the USA dropped atom bombs on two Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This forced Japan to surrender, bringing the war to an end. So, efforts to set up a peace organization had begun during the war itself. On 24th October 1945, the United Nations was formed. So that's all in this chapter. Thank you.